If you do what most people do, you'll be average. And average is like a virus that starts in one area of your life and spreads and infects all the other areas of your life. Hi, my name is Armando Cruz, and in this video, I want to share with you 5 things my father taught me on how to avoid being average. But first, let's share a quick story. My father was a person I admired the most. He was somebody that I could talk to and ask any questions. And it seemed when I was younger that he always had the right answer. And if we didn't have the answer, we'd research it together. He was also the type of person that helped me when I wanted to take the easy way out. And it's easy, the easy way out is easy for a reason. It has very little friction. It's very inviting. And I remember this time where we were at a store and the clerk gave more, I think he gave us like $10 more of change. And in my mind, I'm like, oh man, perfect, we got an extra $10. And when my dad realized, he came back and he gave the $10 and he's like, hey, you gave me too much money for change. And I remember telling him like, Dad, but he gave it to you, so it's yours. And he said, no, the right thing to do is you give it back because it is exactly not yours. You gave him back, the change was supposed to be this amount and he gave you $10 more. He made a mistake. And when he gave the $10 back to the guy was super grateful and he said, man, thank you so much for doing this. They would have taken this out of my pay. And so my dad was telling me, he's like, look, we would have essentially been stealing from this young man. And I remember that stayed ingrained because there were other areas in my life where, man, it was much easier to do this one thing. I kept seeing something like this, that it wasn't just my dad saying, hey, you got to do the right thing. I got a chance to witness that and many other instances of him doing the right thing, not doing what most people would have done. He was very disciplined. And I remember I would wake up in the mornings right before school, my siblings and I getting, half asleep, getting ready to go to school. My dad was drenched. He had just finished a workout. And he created that discipline day in and day out. And he always invited us, hey, you want to train, you want to exercise, but he never forced us. And many of those same habits that he had, I've adopted over the years as I've gotten older. In fact, he always said, look, training is super important, but try to do it when the family is asleep so that you don't miss that time with them. He's also my superhero. I remember distinctly cheering for him when he did the Ironman and racing around, and the pride that I had just watching him go through that and seeing how difficult it was. I remember my dad was a great marathoner. He was a sub 3-hour marathoner, and I remember him really suffering on this marathon. I had never seen my dad walk on a run, and he was just cramping up and he was hurting. But I saw him grind through it and finish the Ironman. That's 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles bike, and then 26.2 miles running after that. So I share this with you because there was nothing average about my father. I think of the Robert Frost quote, or I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but basically it's, there were 2 roads and I chose the one less traveled, and it's made all the difference, right? And I feel like that embodies a lot of what my father was trying to teach me and my siblings about not being average. If you follow the road that everybody else takes, yeah, it'll probably be quicker, it'll probably be smoother, but is it really getting you where you really want to go? And the answer is, most of the time, it's not. And so choose that road less traveled. It'll be more difficult, but it's gonna bring out the best in you. It's gonna make you that person that stands apart because you were able to go through that, because you figured out those problems, because you overcame those obstacles and that friction. Let me share with you the 5 things my dad taught me to overcome being average. Number 1, set standards. Archilochus said, we don't rise to the level of our expectations, but fall to the level of our training. And standards are such an important part of this. I feel fortunate and super grateful that I got to witness that in my father, the way he conducted his life, the way he still conducts his life, right? He's a man of principle and he has standards. But the story I want to share with you is my son runs for a cross-country team that is a top 10 cross-country team in the nation. And when you look at their team compared to other cross-country teams or even other sports in their same school, you notice a difference right away. It's not acceptable to miss practice. And if you have to miss practice, it is expected that you're going to run and do what everyone else did. In fact, there's accountability. They have an entire group chat that if you couldn't make it or whatever the prescribed run or training session was, you have to put your times. You have to put your training that you did for that day if you couldn't be with the team. And why does that matter? It matters because, number one, without standards, you'll fall to what is easy. It is much easier to do nothing. It's much easier to be like, oh, you know what? I'm a little bit tired today. I'm not gonna do this. But when you have a coach that sets a standard that, hey, we're one team and we're a national caliber team and we act like it and we train like it. And it goes from the entire coaching staff to the upperclassmen, and the entire team starts feeding off this energy and this standard. So if you don't want to be average, you need to set standards. Number two, think different. General Patton said, if everyone is thinking the same, then somebody is not thinking. And I thought that was such an eloquent way of saying it, because really, if you look at the most successful people in the world, billionaires, the innovators, they've been able to look at problems, look at life, look at situations in a different way and have come up with new solutions, new way of doing things that have brought them their success and those innovations. In fact, one of the interesting stats is if you look at some of the highest level thinkers, many of them, or successful entrepreneurs, many of them have some kind of learning disability, many of them have some level of dyslexia, and what they believe that correlation comes to is that because they've had to do things different, because their brain is working different, they see the world different. Now when they approach a problem, when they approach a situation, number one, they're not afraid to fail because they've already failed since they were little and they've figured out ways to overcome that. And then number two, because they've had to think of things and look at things differently, now when there's a new situation, a new problem, they already have trained the thinking different muscle. They're not doing things the way normal people do it. And as a result, it allows them to propel the new innovation or the success that they wouldn't normally have. And you may say, well, I don't have dyslexia, I don't have any learning disabilities, so how do I do it? Well, number one, don't be afraid to fail. So don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to look at problems in a different perspective. Sometimes that means quite literally changing how you're looking at it. So if you're getting stuck on a problem, you're getting stuck on a certain scenario, change your perspective. Stand on your head, walk outside, go and do something different so you can look at it from another place physically. You can spiritually do the same thing, mentally do the same thing. Change perspective, create constraints in there so you have to look at it different. Okay, I'm gonna take away having all the time in the world. How would I solve this problem if I only had 30 minutes? Okay, great. How would I solve that problem in 2 minutes? And now you start thinking different because constraints create creativity. Number three, be consistent. Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. And man, that changed my life. Your habits create the man, the husband, the father, the entrepreneur that you become. And so that ability to be consistent sets you apart from the average, because the likelihood is that most people are not. They may do things once and that's it. If you can be consistent in anything, you put in the reps, you hit those 10,000 hours before anyone else because you've been consistent. Number four, reflect often. Mark Twain said, whenever you find yourself in the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools that we have. It gives us an opportunity to stop, look, and listen. That space that you create gives you a different perspective. It changes the tempo of life in the moment. And by breaking that pattern, it allows you to now make decisions that allow you to iterate and grow as a person. It allows you to be stronger, be clearer, and be more focused on anything you put your mind to. So if you want to avoid being average, be consistent. Number 5, get clear. In 2002, my father, my friend Johan, and myself, we did what was called the high-tech adventure race. Now, this was before obstacle course racing, and that's kind of like where that went. But in this race, we went through I don't know how many miles of mountain biking, kayaking, running, and at the end, as we were getting to the end, there was a section where we had to go to the table and they handed us a map and a compass to find different letters that were hidden throughout the entire park. What was interesting is, as we're approaching, we see these teams running in all different directions. And my friend Johan was like, we gotta go. And I remember my father, because I got all riled up as well. And I was like, man, yeah, we gotta go. Look at all these teams, they're passing us. And my father said, whoa, where are you gonna go? You don't even know where you're going. We need to look on the map to find where exactly we gotta go. We have to get clear. And so when we're looking at being excellent, avoiding being average, we need to get clear on exactly what it is that we want, where do we want to go, and what steps we need to take to get there. And just like in that example, we need to get clear, look at that map, find exactly where we need to go so that we can move forward with precision. So if you're finding yourself running around like a chicken with your head cut off, stop, reflect, right? Number 4, reflect and get clear. If you can get clear, you can increase speed to wherever you want to go, and you can increase precision, which means you'll lose a lot less energy and bump your head a lot less as a result. When you separate from the crowd and go against the herd, the same way that Robert Frost said, take the road less traveled, it makes all the difference in the world. So just to bring everything together, I want to remind you of the 5 things that will help you avoid average. Number 1, set standards. Number 2, think different. Number 3, be consistent. Number 4, reflect often. And number 5, get clear. Now it's time to do what the average won't, and that is take action. Take a look at these 5 areas, start implementing in your life. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to have that dialogue and be able to serve in any way that I can. If you haven't already done so, in the description, sign up for our newsletter. You'll get videos like this, as well as some great articles that will dive deeper into moving from average to excellent, living the nonconformist way. This has been me, Armando. It's been a pleasure. I'll catch you on the next one.